we set up Doge.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook. And America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing! Now,
he calls it dark MAGA.
as you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
My sole and exclusive mission is to go to work for our country, to go to work for you. It's time to deliver a victory for the American people. America will start winning again, winning like never before. I will never, ever let you down. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. Whoa! Get out of here.
This is Donald Trump's house, brother.
My plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. I will always give you my love. This country is going to be boomtown. It's going to be booming like it never boomed before. America is a nation of believers, dreamers, and strivers. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
No government ever voluntarily reduces itself in size. So government programs once launched never disappear. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life we'll ever see on this earth.
Fourth, at the suggestion of Elon Musk, I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting. If he has the time, that'd be a good one to do it, but he's agreed to do it. In 2022, fraud and improper payments alone cost taxpayers an estimated hundreds of billions of dollars. As the first order of business, this commission will develop an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. This will save trillions of dollars, trillions. It's massive. For the same service that you have right now, trillions of dollars is wasted and gone, and nobody knows where it went. I'm going to have Elon Musk. He's dying to do this. We'll have a new position, Secretary of Cost Cutting. He's a great business guy. You think of him for science and rockets, and he's a great cost cutter. You've seen that. And he said, I could cut costs without affecting anybody. And besides that, I want him to send the rocket up to Mars. He made me a promise he'll get to Mars before the end of my administration.
So as much of the focus is on the crypto market entering its bull run following the presidential election and Donald Trump heading back to the White House for Trump 2.0, XRP's price has exploded. But it's important to note what is going on in Washington, because this is going to affect every one of us. Today, we're witnessing what I can only describe as a political earthquake ready to shake the very foundation of Washington, D.C. President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to dismantle the federal bureaucracy and shatter the deep state by draining the swamp, unveiling his ambitious Department of Government Agency, or DOGE, as one component of that agenda, a daring initiative that's outside of the government, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Their mission is to dismantle the federal bureaucracies and massive waste by cutting spending and unleash the full potential of American innovation. So the goal here is twofold: to cut spending, but also massive deregulation.
I will launch a historic campaign to liberate our economy from crippling regulation. I'm pledging today that in my second term, we will eliminate a minimum of 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. We'll be able to do that quite easily, actually. And instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. It will be an economic revival of our country like no one has ever seen before, and reignite explosive economic growth. Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute. We will put unelected bureaucrats back in their place. We're going to let it grow. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman. Let me say it again. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. Whoa!
But maybe I can appeal to your sense of self-interest. If you guys use the SEC in such a politically motivated way, eventually you're going to be out of power. And I have to say, Chairman Gensler, turnabout is fair play. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I just, sir?
Get the hell out of here! Get out of here!
Trump administration's vision for the federal bureaucracy: drastic reduction of bureaucratic power. Trump's agenda focuses on dismantling the entrenched deep state by limiting the power of unelected bureaucrats. The reissuance of his 2020 executive order to reclassify federal employees as Schedule F allows the president to fire and replace federal employees deemed obstructive. This reclassification could apply to SEC officials, enabling Trump to restructure the agency rapidly. Independent agencies under Trump's authority. Trump has declared his intention to bring independent agencies like the FCC, FTC, and SEC under presidential authority, asserting this is constitutionally mandated. These agencies currently operate with a level of autonomy, often outside of direct executive oversight. By reasserting presidential authority, Trump seeks to ensure accountability and alignment with his administration's policy goals.
Next, I will bring the independent regulatory agencies such as the FCC and the FTC back under presidential authority as the Constitution demands. These agencies do not get to become a fourth branch of government, issuing rules and edicts all by themselves, and that's what they've been doing. I will require that they submit any regulations they're considering for White House review. In addition, we will require that all agencies' regulatory guidance must be posted publicly in a central database or else be rendered null and void, and many of them will in fact be null and void. This will effectively repeal a mountain of stealth regulations and threats that rogue bureaucrats have imposed without proper oversight. And I will sign a law to ban bureaucrats from taking any enforcement action based on informal guidance alone. For example, never again will bureaucrats be allowed to bully and pressure banks to choke off their financially deplatformed, politically disfavored industries. We're not going to let that happen. We will put unelected bureaucrats back in their place, liberate the U.S. economy, and attract millions of jobs and trillions of dollars to our shores. Slash regulations like I did just 3 years ago. We will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state.
But the key point here to take away for us is Trump says this will pave the way for this dismantling of government bureaucracy. So everything that we've known so far, the way the SEC operates, the way these agencies have operated throughout a period, the last 4 years, is choke point 2.0. They've decimated the crypto industry, along with other industries, but crypto has been one of the biggest targets as a $3 trillion industry. And just some examples here, besides the enforcement actions, they blocked banks from even offering services to customers for crypto by passing a rule. The SEC passed a rule. It's basically like a law. And Congress voted to overturn it, and still President vetoes it. It can't get overturned. So these agencies have far too much power, and Trump is not just going to put in another SEC commissioner or chairman and the SEC stay the same way. At some point, they're going to get to restructuring these federal agencies, and the SEC is probably at the top of that list.
I mean, do you think Gary Gensler actually understands the crypto business?
You know, one of the most frustrating things about Gary Gensler, he actually taught classes at MIT about crypto. And if you watch the videos of him teaching these classes, and then you listen to him after he became the chair of the SEC under Elizabeth Warren's kind of guidance.
Oh, I see where you're going.
It was a night and day difference. And so
he is smart. He understands, but he's political.
Extremely. And hypocritical.
Yeah.
You know, look, literally the federal courts were calling the SEC under his leadership, these are exact quotes, arbitrary and capricious, failing to follow a faithful allegiance to the law.
Wow.
They were even sanctioned in one case in Utah, that the SEC was sanctioned by a federal judge. This is not what we want from our government institutions, to work for the people and to actually protect investors.
All right.
It is part of a deeper cancer in this country, where you think about what is sucking the lifeblood out of the United States of America. It is the rise of this fourth branch of government. The people who were never elected to run the government, who are actually writing rules that are affecting not only every one of you, but every American. I think what you're going to get out of that second Trump term isn't there to go around and just mess around the edges of it. We want to get in there and actually shut that down. That's how you revive this country, put that regulatory state in its place. You know, one of the things that we didn't necessarily hear from today, but I want to see become part of this conversation, is every time one of these administrative agencies, you know, the SEC was discussed today, pursues an action that they end up losing in federal court, they're still putting people through hell in the process. You know what? If you lose, you pay. And to actually have accountability in the government for the cases they actually bring, so it's not a one-sided crusade, but there's actually accountability once and for all for the people who are actually making hell for American citizens. And I think that's where this conversation is going.
And the recent Supreme Court decisions, such as West Virginia versus EPA, empower the executive branch to rein in agencies exceeding their statutory authority. So some of the implications that we could see for the SEC, if brought under presidential authority, now this is speculation, but it's a good possibility, so we should be aware of it. The SEC's chair and commissioners could become directly accountable to the president.
So I want to talk about those regulatory agencies for a second, Larry, because one of the most remarkable things that's been happening is that those agencies, the ones you named, three-letter agencies, from the FTC to the SEC to a number of others, to the EPA, they have been consistently, not even by like a little bit, consistently losing in federal court. So they're wasting public resources to go after different actors in the private sector. You've got fishermen cases, you've got private sector actor cases, you've got coal miners, that when they go to court, they are losing. So that means the agencies tasked with supposedly enforcing the law actually have no regard for the law itself. These agencies have lost their legitimacy. They've lost their constitutional legitimacy. The Supreme Court and the federal courts repeatedly slapping them down, saying that you are not enforcing the rules as you're supposed to actually have read those rules as Congress initially enacted them. One of the biggest events that happened was this year, overturning of Chevron deference in the Loper case. That changes the game entirely. Because before that, there was this general doctrine that federal courts had to engage in deference, had to defer to the interpretation of these administrative three-letter agencies. That is no longer good law. The law now is that agencies no longer receive that deference from federal court. This changes the game completely, Larry. Add on to that West Virginia versus EPA from 2 years ago that said if it's a major policy question, you can't write it by regulation. It had to be done by Congress. That quite literally means that a majority, literally a majority of those federal regulations are likely unconstitutional under current Supreme Court doctrine. That is the basis for mass regulatory reform of a kind we have not seen in modern American history. And I do think our founding fathers will be proud when we go in there and actually implement it, both by thinning out the regulations and by thinning out the bureaucracy that in many cases distorts those regulations to serve as a wet blanket on our economy. You want to grow the economy, the number one way to do it is this regulatory reform. Take that wet blanket off. That's how we make America great again. So the way you're going to do this, I don't think, is just through incrementally bringing the chisel. I think you got to bring the chainsaw with respect to the bureaucracy itself.
And this was probably the most interesting. The Trump team also has weighed an executive order that would require independent agencies which Congress has insulated from presidential supervision to submit new regulations and guidance practices to the White House for approval before issuing them. And you know what? That is, to an extent, how things should be done, because the president is the leader of the executive branch, which enforces the laws. So if any of these agencies are going to extend the way they enforce the law, it should be approved by the boss, which is the president. So these things aren't radical. They're based off the Constitution. The actual creation of 428 agencies is not in line with the Constitution. So anyone saying, oh, it's overreach that the president's slashing all these agencies, well, they shouldn't exist in the first place. They're not in the Constitution. So, the IRS, all these, the Fed even, they're a little different, but they're on the list too. The D.O.G.E commission is going to end by July 4th, 2026, which is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which they want to commemorate and have this big celebration for. And they didn't say they were going to balance the budget by then, but have a massive reduction in the waste, get these bureaucratic agencies either massively reformed or just slashed, deleted, or moved out of the D.C. to other parts of the country. So replacing maybe some of the people who work at the agencies. It's not that the federal employees are bad people, all of them, but they're part of this bureaucratic state, which is rooted in old world England and monarchs, where the king needed to have somebody and a government. They appointed all these unelected bureaucrats to then enforce their laws. So another thing here is The Bank Secrecy Act, that might get wiped or go to the Supreme Court at least. So by having these Supreme Court decisions backing a lot of what DOGE does and what Trump's going to do, a tremendous amount of things in executive orders, because he has 4 years. And they're going to want to do it not just for these 4 years. They want to make lasting change.
Like if you have a once in a lifetime or once in a generation opportunity and you don't take serious action, and then you have 4 years to get it done, and if it doesn't get done, then...
How serious is Trump about this? Like, you've talked to him about it, yeah?
Yeah, I think he is very serious about it.
Got it.
And no, I think actually the reality is that if we get rid of nonsense regulations and shift people from the government sector to the private sector, we will have immense prosperity, and I think we will have a golden age in this country. And it'll be fantastic.
But Trump is very enthusiastic about deregulation, which is not to say we don't want any regulation, we just want sensible regulations. And I think if President Trump is elected, we can actually take those actions and we can cut the strings. Like I feel like America is like Gulliver, tied down by a million little strings, and we need to cut those strings and free the giant.
The problem with government is not in the things it tries, but in the absence of any mechanism for recognizing error. What you need, what the private system abounds in, is survival of the fittest. What the governmental system abounds in is expansion of the mistakes. And there's no mechanism for eliminating governmental agencies which either have no longer are needed or have behaved perversely. If you try to think back and ask yourself, how many government agencies can you think of that have ever been abolished? I thought you could count those on the fingers of one hand.
But the mass deportation, Vivek says, of these bureaucrats, we're paying tons of employees with taxpayer dollars. Now, it's not firing them and throwing them on the street. It's transitioning them to the private sector, which will actually help the economy. So everything that DOGE is doing, from slashing waste to transferring federal employees to the private sector to deregulating, is all booms for the economy. And these are things that we've gone in the opposite direction in the last 4 years. So they're all they're disinflationary, and they're going to innovation.
Don't forget about the second mass deportation that we need as well. That's the mass deportation of millions of unelected federal bureaucrats out of the D.C. bureaucracy. I think we can't fall into this trap to say we're going to reform that bureaucracy. Incremental reform doesn't work when it comes to the administrative state, when it comes to the deep state. You need to make deep cuts if you're going to defeat the deep state. And I do think this time around, Donald Trump is more prepared than ever to go the distance, to be able to say that we're not going in to reform the bureaucracy, we're going in to dismantle it, to shut it down. That's how you save a republic. That's how you save this broken system from itself. I think that is the root cause of our failure as a country, is this unelected fourth branch of government. And I think they look at elected officials as these cute little puppets that come and go every little while. Not anymore. There's a new sheriff in town. Donald Trump's the president. He has mandated us for radical, drastic reform of this federal bureaucracy with the learnings of that first term. What's happened is President Biden has made a lot of changes trying to entrench the administrative state. The Supreme Court has slapped them on the wrists numerous times. So we're working with a legal landscape here that is historic. You think about a president of the United States like Donald Trump, elected with the mandate he's been given, both chambers of Congress belonging to Republicans, a 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. Marie, if we don't downsize the federal government now, it's never going to happen in the future as well. So this is a historic opportunity. We're not actually going to squander this, but I think part of the key is to move quickly, to move effectively. I think that mass deregulation that I talked about earlier, that gives us the industrial logic to then make cuts to that bureaucracy, and moving quickly is our objective.
And what solves all problems? From inflation to everything, growth and opening up new markets. Like the Trump administration has even, in a Reuters article, has been studying the idea of opening up private assets to, a wider sector of the population, because only 13% are accredited. And that's a market that has no real infrastructure and is the same size as the public stock market. So there's untapped markets here that really can take off. We also have the tokenization of commodities, the derivatives market. Now, if you could bring the assets that back stablecoins on chain, it gets very, very, very interesting, because now you break up almost the form of money into a payment stablecoin. And then if you're holding the tokenized T-bill, now you have the store value earning yield. Now that might require KYC AML. As of right now, it would. But Gary said you can't even own that if you're a retail, which is ridiculous. The safest assets in the world, it's the short-term treasury bill issued by our own country. This federal bureaucrat is saying, oh no, you retail, you can't own that because it's on a blockchain. Like, those are the type of things that have held us back. There's no reason why that should be. But foreigners could hold it? What upside down world are we living in? So now that we have common sense and logic in there, as Garlinghouse has said, Trump is going to make.
And we're finally seeing that kind of unlocked in a Trump embraced crypto and crypto embraced Trump. And I think we're seeing that reflect in kind of how the markets have reacted since the election. So for really the Trump cabinet to bear, getting those clear rules, which we've been asking for under the Biden administration for years, I think we're finally going to get that clarity, which will help the U.S. lead again. And I think, Trump talks about making America great again. I think he's going to make crypto great again in the United States.
No, he certainly talks about it a lot and wants more in terms of the U.S. role in that.
It's a new dawn for crypto in the United States, and I think we really can make this the heartbeat of the crypto and blockchain industry in the next 5 or 10 years.
And his enthusiasm in this interview is why I think even the news anchor who has interviewed him multiple times, Garlinghouse has a tendency to just sometimes his emotions just shine through. He met with Trump after the election, but him and Stu Alderani met with him in June, and I think a lot of that helped craft that some of it helped craft that Bitcoin speech, because in that speech he explicitly doesn't only say Bitcoin. He knows he's there addressing the Bitcoin community, so he has to say Bitcoin community. It's a Bitcoin conference. So the fact that he just said crypto once would have been like, oh, how dare they say that there? He said it multiple times and, talked about bringing billions of people into crypto economies in regards to stable coins. Our influencers don't even use that term.
The reason I've come to address the Bitcoin community today can be summed up in 2 very simple words: America first. Because if we don't do it, China's going to be doing, others are going to be doing it. Let's do it and do it right. As part of our effort to provide regulatory clarity, we will create a framework to enable the safe and responsible expansion of stable coins, allowing us to extend the dominance of the U.S. dollar to new frontiers all around the world. America will be richer, the world will be better, and there will be billions and billions of people brought into crypto economy and storing their savings in Bitcoin. So that's the way it is. That's pretty much the way it is. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American. Our nation has never thrived by trying to censor new ideas and shut down the dreams of our people. America always plants our flag on the next frontier and pushes boldly ahead. We have to do that. A lot of things change. As president, I will immediately shut down Operation Choke Point 2.0. They want to choke you. They want to choke you out of business. We're not going to let that happen. And no longer will your government sit by and watch as Bitcoin jobs and businesses flee to other countries because America's laws are too unclear and too tough and too angry and too stiff. We will keep each and every Bitcoin job in the United States of America. That's what we're going to be doing. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy.
We're not holding back. You want to save this country. That is how you drain the swamp. Shut down these agencies. Go straight down the list. U.S. Department of Education, shut it down. ATF, shut it down. FBI, shut it down. You go straight down the list. You cannot reform these agencies. You want to get in there and afuera, shut it down. That's the future of this country. 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. The managerial class, this is a war in this country. And I don't call this a war lightly. Right? War is one of these things that speaks itself into existence. But I mean this in a deep sense. We are at war as we were in the American Revolution. It is not between Democrat and Republican. It is not between black and white, or man and woman, or gay and straight. No. This is a war between the managerial class in the deep state and the everyday citizen in this country. This is a war between those of us who love the United States of America and our founding ideals, and those who hate this country and what we stand for. And right now, more than ever, we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. And that man is your 47th president, Donald J. Trump, the next president of the United States of America.
Don't be distracted by the prices. The rest of the financial markets are coming to where we are. And institutions, the crypto space has been like a vault with a locked door, full of potential, but out of reach due to regulatory uncertainty. Trump's policies, coupled with D.O.G.E's dismantling of bureaucratic barriers, are about to throw that door wide open. We are on the brink of what can only be described as a crypto renaissance. And after 4 years of regulatory gridlock in the U.S., we are finally poised to lead the global blockchain revolution. We have D.O.G.E as a wrecking ball smashing through the walls of stagnation. And that's not just hype or talk, that's happening. And building a foundation for unprecedented innovation. But let's be clear, this isn't just about XRP or Ripple. It's a fundamental shift in how we view money, value, and financial systems. Stable coins like RLUSD bridge the gap between TradFi and DeFi, creating a seamless, efficient, and transparent financial system. They are connective tissues that enable tokenization, DeFi, and global liquidity at scale like we've never seen before. So the lion roars again. The U.S. crypto industry has been a caged lion, but the cage has been unlocked, and the roar is about to echo across the globe. With Trump's pro-crypto, pro-innovation, and pro-business agenda, the shackles of regulatory uncertainty are being shattered, and Gensler is going to leave with his tail between his legs or get thrown out by Trump. And the path forward is clear. For XRP holders and blockchain enthusiasts, this is your moment. The future isn't coming. It's already here. It's roaring to life. On the XRP Ledger, stay focused on what matters. On-chain innovation, tokenized assets, and seamless integration of blockchain to the global economy. And be wary of getting too caught up in the hype of prices and predictions. We are still at the beginning, and we're on a journey. If you want to build generational wealth, you're not going anywhere. This is not financial advice. I'm Mickey B. Fresh. And remember, the future doesn't wait for anyone. It's happening now. Let's seize it. See you next time on the DeFi Standard.